Awesome. Okay, everyone. Well, welcome to Art Impressions Back to Basics with me. Today we are going to be doing the mini cottages set. And do you remember last week I told you to, I instructed you to do your homework and look at the shadows on different structure buildings, or like different structures, whether it's your house or whether it be an apartment complex or something like that. So if you have looked, if you haven't looked, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. But if you have looked, you will notice that when the sun is at 12, the shadows are really strong right underneath those eaves and the doorways, under the windows. And there's a really strong, it's a small shadow, but it's very strong at noon. So we are going to work on the mini cottages today. And our focus is going to be on putting in the shadows for those mini structures, okay? So we've got these ones, and you can see they're oriented in different ways, right? So this one is straight on. Obviously, this one's to the side. This one's also to the side, but it's a two-story. And then this one has a couple other elements in here that we kind of need to think about. So I am going to walk you through the basics of shadows for structures, and you can use them for this size and the bigger structures. The little ones are a little bit different. You have to be a little bit more careful. But I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. So it's going to be very simple. But we're going to walk through the shadows on each of these structures, and they're going to be a little bit different on each one. So once you kind of get the idea of where those shadows would go, it's really easy to take those lessons and apply them to other structures that maybe might be a little bit more complex or something. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to flip the camera, and I will show you the set again in like the correct orientation. So I'll see you on the other side. All right. So let's get set up here. Okay. So here are the little structures. Okay. Let's see. What did Lee? Okay. Can somebody help Lee? She's got a question about her messages. Okay. So I am going to be using number 4961. Okay. 4961. This is the mini cottages set, and it is so cute. Now, just to note that, you know, all of the projects are going to have this really nice, already finished project on the packaging, so you can be inspired by what you see here, okay? It's also a really great way to be like, okay, where are the shadows going to be? This is actually going to be a little bit darker on ours, but the sun may be oriented a little bit different here. You can see the windows are also very dark. It's just beautiful. But you can see that this side, although it's still light, is a little bit darker than this side, okay? So we are going to jump right in, and I'm going to show you how I stamped each of these, okay? And then I am going to just use one that I've already prepared. So I'm going to show you how to stamp one of them though, because we're just going to use that brown and the blue because we want that really nice gray. So it's going to be the 565 and the 969. You know, when we grab for colors to do our vessels, it's generally going to be these two. I'm sure that you've guessed it now. These are so commonly used as a base. Okay, so I'm going to go 969, and I'm just going to grab that marker and put it onto my stamp, and then right over the top I'm going to do the 565. Now when you're doing this, this is a lot of ink, so you need to stamp it off. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna stamp it off once. See how dark that is? I don't want it that dark. Okay, and then I'm gonna stamp it onto my project paper just like that, okay? So I'm gonna do that with all 4 of these, and to save time, I have already done them. So we are going to start with this one right up here. Okay, so if you are new to this, always make sure when you get your brush out and ready to paint, you open up those bristles in the water and release the bubbles. Very, very important here. One moment, I'm just gonna get a quick drink. Okay, so I'm gonna take my brush, and as you can see on my sample here, okay, as you can see, I'm thinking about when the sun is coming down at noon, okay? So if I had, let's see here. Let's just have a visual, okay? So I'm just doing this last minute visual right now because sometimes it's just nice to be able to, in your mind, see how something is working, okay? So here's the sun. Okay, so the sun is right at noon, okay? So I'm gonna come down and the sun is right at noon. All right, so you can see when the sun is shining down, everything that it touches, so all of this rooftop up here, that is going to be light or lighter. And everything that it doesn't touch, like underneath the roof where the eaves are, that's going to be dark, okay? And the way that these are kind of made is to make it really simple. The smaller side is meant to just be shadowed in, and it just helps you to think about, okay, where am I going to put the shadows? Whatever the small side is, that's always going to be shadowed in, okay? So you can see on this one, this is the small side right here and right here. Those are going to be darker than the larger side, okay? So let's take our brush and we are going to begin by pulling out the shadows, or the color, I should say, from the lines. And this is going to be a very dark area right in there. That is going to be really dark, this area under the roof, and also over here. That's going to be dark. Same thing on the door. And then this little piece right here, that's going to be dark. Okay. So this is a very simple structure to do because you just think about, okay, I need a little bit of a shadow underneath the, where it jets out the roof, the overhang. I need a shadow under there because my sun is up here. And I can even just put a little sun here. Okay. So I know my sun is beaming down like this, right? All this little rays. So the ray is going to touch that top of the roof. So I'm not going to be putting any shadows there. But I am going to put shadows underneath the rooftop where the sun isn't going to shine down. Okay, I'm going to take my little palette here and I'm going to put on here 565 and 969. These are the only two colors I'm using, and then also the twin tones, because you know I love doing the contrast. So I use the twin tones a lot. And to make that nice gray, I'm going to just mix a little bit of these together. Okay, so I'm going to take that nice gray and just drop it right into that roof. Come back, just like that. And I'll take a little bit more of that color, and I'm actually just going to put a line right under this roof here. And that's gonna make it look like it's shadowed in down there. Okay, it's very, very logical if you think about it. Where your shadows are gonna be is just where the sun isn't gonna shine. Okay, and then we can put in our windows. Now this is very basic. You can always go back in and darken up certain areas if you want to. You can go back and really put in a lot of work into the way that your shadows are seen. How strong they are. If you want different stripes of shadows coming down, you absolutely can do that. But this is very basic. A lot of people struggle with, I know I need a shadow, but I don't know where to put it. Okay, and even if you have just a tiny shadow in your structure, even if it's very basic, it will help you a ton to make it look more realistic and make it look like it's three-dimensional. So I'm going to take that 565 and just put in a little window here. Okay. Now I'm going to take that same 565 and go into these windows back here. All right. So now I'm just going to deepen up this one because I want that to be nice and dark. And that's it. So we could go in now and actually color this if we wanted to, but I really want you to make a watercolor paper like this so that you can have it for your like your tools when you go and do a structure. I want you to be able to look back at this, pull this out, and use it and be like, okay, this is where I need to put my shadows. Just like I did here. I didn't color anything other than place the shadows in and put the windows in. That's it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to show you an example at the end of what it looks like once you put color in, okay? All right, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask. We've got my mom on live here answering questions, so if you have any, please put them below. Okay, so I'm going to do that 969 and the 565 again. And actually, I don't need that quite yet. Good morning. Okay, hello. Hi, Pam. Amy, I left this blank because when I looked at my original, I was like, I actually don't think that would be shadowed right there if it was noon. So I didn't put it on this one. You can, it's not wrong. But I didn't put it on this one because I figured once I go to color it, I can color it like a brown or something like that. It probably isn't going to have a shadow there. The shadow is probably going to be like down in here. Okay. So now I'm going to take my brush and we are going to do the next one. I'm going to save this one for last because it does have a few more things you need to think about because you've got the double small little space here and then also the roof that kind of bends around. So I'm going to save that one for last. Okay, now I'm going to go into the second little mini cottage And I'm gonna start by pulling out the shadow of the main little dormer here. I know I'm gonna have a shadow under there. And I'm also gonna have a shadow underneath this rooftop and also around the small side. Okay. So I'm gonna put that there. And then also a little bit underneath here. Oh, and Amy, here's the other thing about that roof or that chimney. There was no small side on this. I just kind of made it, but there is on these. So you would add your shadow to this. So yeah, that's why there's no like little drawn in sort of line in there, I guess. But there is on these. So you would put in a shadow on this one. But good question. And I did put it in the original. So awesome, awesome catch there. You've got eagle eyes. Okay. So now I'm going to take my brush and take a little bit of that 565 and the 969. I'm going to mix these together. And we're going to put a little bit darker under this one. Oops. We just turned our fan on in here because it's like blazing. So sorry if you hear a little hum in the background. It's like so hot. I'm getting a sweat mustache as we speak. So I apologize if there's anything going on in the background that you can hear. Okay, so now I'm going to take that same shadow and put it beneath here and on the side. So anytime there's a small side on anything, you're going to put in that shadow, okay? Also notice we have on that same side that we put in the shadow here, this is also facing the same direction. So actually it's going to also be shadowed. Okay. So I'm going to take that and put this here. And then just keep mixing these. These are so great for those grays. I'm just gonna keep mixing those and put in a shadow right underneath that, and then also here. Okay. So for those of you wondering, we will do our twin tone at the end, and we'll get all of those little details in at the very end. So don't worry, I have not forgotten those. Okay. I'm gonna put a little bit of a shadow underneath this door. So this one isn't gonna have too much going on as far as shading goes in the main house. Sorry, I just lost a light. Okay, there it is. Okay, in the main house, you're not gonna have a whole lot of shade. Oh. Okay, that's probably too loud. Okay, are you guys hearing this okay? Just let me know if it's too loud in the background. Okay. I'm gonna keep going, and I'm going to just pull out a little bit of that color to provide a small shadow right underneath this roof, okay? Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Georgia. Awesome. Okay, great. Ah, that's great. Okay, Catherine. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. Okay. So now that we've done that, we have just our windows to do. I'm going to take that 565 and I'm going to just put in my little windows. And you can always put in a little shadow underneath the windows if you want. And I'll show you what that looks like. Put those in. And then we'll do just a little bit over here. If you want to do a small shadow there underneath the window, you can by just putting one in. Okay, and you can see when it first starts, it's very flat. If you look at these two, you can see that it's very flat here. And then when we add in our shadows, it kind of pops off the page, right? So now we're going to go to the next one. And we are going to do this one. So you can see there's no small, obvious place to put your shadow. So what I would do on this one is highlight this front area on the house, and then you're actually going to shadow in the back. So these two areas right here, I'm going to shadow in. All right, same colors, same mix. Okay, 565 and 969. And I like to get pretty much equal mix of these. But if I had to, if I preferred it to be more brown or more blue for this, I would go for more blue. Okay, so on this one, since there's no obvious area other than the chimney right here, we can put that in right away, right? Because we see that small area there. But I know under these roof tops, this is going to be shadowed in. And I'm going to take just a wet brush and just lightly blend out those shadows just a little bit more. This back area is going to be more shadowed in because it's sort of behind, well, it is behind this main area right here. And we'll just, when we shadow it in, we set it back a little bit further. So we can set this back just a bit more by adding in the shadows back here. You see that? And then this part pops forward. Okay, I'm gonna take that same mix once again, just these two colors all night. I'll add just a little bit more red underneath. And we'll go underneath this rooftop right here. Once you feel confident in putting in a few shadows, honestly, you can look at any structure and be like, okay, I know I can at least put a couple shadows in there, because you know under every structure roof is going to have a darker area, right? So anytime you do a structure or a project with a structure, I would recommend that you put in all of your shadows just like this right at the beginning, because you can put in your color, you can wash in your color over the top of it, and it's going to give you a really nice base to follow along with. Okay. There's also going to be a little shadow right under this door frame. Okay. And then lastly, let me make sure I got them all. Actually, there's a little bit under. These windows actually have window boxes. So you do want to put shadows in areas that have a window box, because it's going to stick out just like, you know, a roof would. Okay, and then we'll put in our windows again. So once you do this, you have a blank canvas then to paint your house however you want to. And maybe you don't want to do much with it. Maybe you just like it to look a little bit more, you know, neutral. Maybe you want it to be white. You can totally do that. When I first started watercoloring, I did this exact thing. I went and did my structures, and I figured out how the shadows were gonna look on them, and then I sort of tried to logically think, how is this gonna look in real life? And then I would just try to put the shadows in how, you know, I would see them like downtown when I'm looking at different buildings or outside of my house. And I always noticed that it was really dark right under the roof and under the things that kind of pop out. Okay. And this is just, it's so, what did you, Lorna, hi! It is a good reference. Yes, it is. I encourage you to do it, because you can always look back and be like, okay, that's how I'm going to add in my shadows. All right, and the last one, this one has two small areas here. One here, and actually three, and then one on the top of the chimney, or the side of the chimney. And I'm just going to get that first, and then I'm going to mix my two colors, 565 and 969. And I'm going to start by placing in my two walls that will be dark. Just like that. Okay. And then also the roof, although the roof will be just a little bit lighter, even though it is on that shadowed side, because it's exposed to the sky. So it'll be darker than this side, but it's not going to be as dark as the areas on the walls. Oh, Carolyn, yay! Great, you did the shadows video on YouTube. Awesome. Thank you for that reminder. There is a video on YouTube that I did, I don't know, a year ago or so, a couple of years ago, and it's all about shadows. So you can go and watch that if you want more. This is the very basic version, but I go through, you know, the sun being at different parts of the sky. It is a little bit more intermediate. If you're ready for that, absolutely check that out. I use a visual reference, and I think it's pretty easy to understand. And it's kind of the way I learned. So you could totally go check that out too. Okay, I'm mixing up my colors. They're going away here. Okay, that's gonna be dark under there, and then we're gonna start by bringing some of the shadows over here on the areas that are facing forward. So you can see, although this one looks really simple, it actually has a lot of different sides because it sort of bends. It bends on itself, and you do have to color it according to the way that it's laid out. Okay, if you want it to look like real shadows here. And I can zoom in a little bit more. You can see I'm just working piece by piece, section by section, and making sure that things are cohesive. So since this is facing to the right, this also has to be shadowed in the same way, right? So just something to think about. And then this is going to be dark in here, just right along with this. Also the door frame. I'm just going to pull some of the color right in here. Okay. So you can see there's just a little bit of a variation here. It's not hard, but it does require you to kind of think through how you're going to put in the shadow on that one. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here, and we're gonna put in some of our twin tones, and actually I can zoom back in and just go one by one. So I'm going to use that detail tip of I could use the brown or the blue, just depending on which one I want to use. There's no right or wrong, but I'm just going to go in now and darken some of these areas in here. And I can just take my brush and smooth this out. It's nice and dark. Actually, that's very blue. So I'm gonna add a little bit of the 969. And we'll chill that one out a little bit. Last time I did this, it wasn't so blue. It doesn't really matter as long as you get your shadow in. As long as you're showing, let me switch to the brown. As long as you're showing that this area is darker, you're gonna be good, okay? Now that I have a little brown in there, I actually really like that it's showing some of the blue. Same thing here. I'm just gonna go right underneath and add in that extra shadow. You see that? Just a tiny bit. The same thing on this door as well. Just a little bit goes a long way to add the contrast. Me too, Catherine. Catherine says, I like the shadow leaning more towards blue. Me too. I just think it looks more realistic. Okay, so we're gonna go to this one, and I'm gonna put in the brown. You can do blue, or you can do both. Okay, right under there. This one is going to be dark. So I'm just gonna make sure that that's nice and dark. And then we'll just do a little bit over here. And this was a small area. So I'm gonna make sure that's nice and dark. And then on the door frame. So I should mention that I'm doing this twin tone. This would be done after you're finished coloring your entire structure. Okay, so say I was at this point, I would color it how I wanted it to be colored, and then at the very end, as I normally do, then I would go back in with the twin tone and darken things up, okay? So you don't want to do this before you actually color the image. You want to do this at the very end. So you would dip into your palette and color your little house or your structure, however you want to do it, and then at the end, go in with your twin tone. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, but these are just the areas that I would add contrast to if I were going in at the end. I would go down here and then across, and then there's this little side right there. I'm gonna go down that line, maybe a little bit underneath the windows, the little boxes, and right there too. So you can see it just pops when you add that contrast. I mean, you could leave it as is, just like this, and it would be very cute. You could put in your grass and, you know, all that stuff, maybe darken up the roof, and then come in and put in your details. Okay, one more. We're gonna come in here and the other side. Now this one is also gonna be darker. We'll grab a little bit of our number 565 blue, and we'll pull that in, just because that's kind of a thick overhang. Put there. Same thing on this side. So this underneath area is going to be dark. Same thing on the chimney. Under the door overhang and the side, of course the handle. I always like to add a little bit of darkness on the handles. I just think it adds a lot to the image. Oh, we didn't do our windows on this one. We need our little windows. And all I'm doing is dipping into that 565 and just putting it in. Okay, and that is it. And now I have a tool to use when I do structures. Even if it's not the exact same structure, it's just gonna give you a really great view of what a normal shadow would look like on a building. So it's very simple though. I hope that you guys use this. I was gonna show you a sample of a colored one of this one. So I started out exactly like this, okay? I started out exactly like this, and then I added color to it, but kept the shadows in the same spots. Do you see that? So I added the blue, but I kept the shadows where we put them. So if you look at next to each other, you can see the shadows are in the same spots. The areas that are darker are still darker on the one with color. I just used this as my guide to be like, okay, I need to follow the example here. Okay, so I don't normally do a darker house, but I thought this would be a really good example of how to use the shadows even with color. So if you look here, you can see this side and this side is darker than the front, right? And underneath the tops is darker. And then I left a little bit, so when you do a darker house like this, you want to leave a white cushion between the colors. I left even a little bit next to the windows and the door. I just think it breaks it up a little bit more and doesn't feel so intense. So if I were to go in with this one, with my twin tone at the very end, I would do a line here. I would still go here. On this side, I would do one here. I would go here, right? Because I'm darkening up those same areas that I did on here. I just used this to guide me. And then also in the door right here, this is dark. Okay. So, very, very simple lesson today, but I feel like if you take the time to just follow along and put them into your own structures, even if they're different, I feel like this will just lend well to help you reference where your shadows would be later. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back to the other side. And just really quickly, this is the set we used today. This was Watercolor Mini Cottages. And all these little cuties here, we put shadows in. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back and we will say our little goodbyes for the week. And then I'll be back next week and the week after to say hello again. Okay, hi. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Of course, make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, all of those really good social media platforms. We'll have this video up on YouTube if you like YouTube quality better. I really like YouTube quality better than Facebook. So if you want to rewatch, it's better on YouTube. Okay, so go over there, check it out. The video from this morning is already up on YouTube, so you could check that out too. Make sure you get the Easy Project B if you want it. It's our throwback today, and it's available through Thursday night, okay? And Thursday night, 11:59 PST. It expires on the 9th, which is Friday, at 12 a.m. So make sure you get that in. Thank you, Diane. Next week, I will be doing the truck. I've had a lot of requests for the truck. This is so much fun to do. It's great practice for highlights and shadows. And if you have the truck, get it out. We're gonna play with it next week. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you all, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.